Aloha, everyone. Welcome to All Intuitive Conversation. I'm Felicia Miller Johnson, and I am excited to be connecting with Brad Burchell today. This is our first one-to-one conversation that we have had. I have been in a room hearing Brad share some of his story before, but this will be our first time. So let me bring him to the stage. Aloha, Brad.
Aloha. Yeah, I can actually say that because I was stationed on Midway Island for a year and a half, so I consider myself Midwaynian.
Oh, yes. How
So,
long ago was this?
in the dark ages, back in the 1970s, and it was still when it was a naval base. It's no longer a naval base. I think it's something else, but it was
Uh-huh.
a beautiful place to go ahead and be for a time when I was very young. So
Yeah.
as you can tell, I am not anymore. Young
There
at
you
heart.
go.
Young at heart.
That's right. There it is. There is no judgment
Oh,
on
absolutely
this
not.
show. Absolutely. So I was telling people when you first came on, had the pleasure of hearing somewhat of your story. I think we presented in the same
Hmm.
presentation before, but this is
Right.
our first time getting to know each other one to one.
Hmm.
So, with that, what is it that you would want to share with me, the audience that's engaging with us, about Brad today? Because you may be even a different person just from when I
Oh
heard you.
gosh.
Like,
Oh yeah. Well, I'm a graduate of the Breath Framework, and I know that people that are out there they wonder, do these things really work? And I will flat out tell you, um, I am not the same person that I was a year ago.
mm,
A year ago, actually, November 30th, my boss pulled me in his office along with the HR manager, and they said, "Brad, you got to go out for 2 months.
mm,
You've been really struggling, and we recognize that. So take 2 months for you, and you need to, you know." So I went on an FMLA, and in order to protect my role, I went to go see my therapist, and I was diagnosed with PTSD.
mm.
So,
Okay, so
so
that's a lot right there.
yeah,
Dropping,
yeah.
um, having that HR call and basically saying, "Hey, you need to take some time off."
Hmm.
So, what was your PTSD
Well,
about?
number of issues. My oldest daughter took her life on May 28th of 2018, and there was a long history of uh, mental disturbance with her, eating disorders in high school that I really was
Okay.
unaware of, some a little bit, but she was in a master's program for psychology, and she was becoming a clinician, and all of a sudden in 2007, with two classes remaining, she dropped out.
Hmm.
She was in what they called her practicum, which is residency for clinicians, and she was actually working in art therapy in pediatric hospice.
Oh.
She was an empath to the severe, especially when it came to young children. I had friends of mine that worked in hospice for a number of years. I was in a faith-based um, grief recovery program, where I was an assistant leader for 7.5 years. I was going for um, my degree also in something very similar in psychology. I was going in for counseling in marriage and family and therapy.
Mhm.
And I recognized some of the issues that people had in dealing with hospice. I lost my father on December 7th of 1980.
Oh.
Um,
Wait, pause.
yes,
Um, so how are you
yes.
today? Today is December 7th.
Um, I celebrate him every December 7th. My dad was a history teacher. He served in the Navy. Uh,
Mm.
so, I was with him December 6th, and I got the call. This happened to be a Saturday that I spent with him. Sunday morning, I was on duty and got the call at 6:50 a.m.
Mm.
Informing me that my dad had passed, and I drove home very fast
Mm.
and got pulled over by the California Highway Patrol, and was fortunate enough that the highway patrolman that pulled me over went to college with my dad and worked with
Mm.
him when they were working full time and going to school full time. So uh, I received an escort to go home,
Mm.
and I was able to do that. And I didn't make it in time, but I spent the entire day the day before with him. Um, this is also another monumental day in that a number of years later, I was served my divorce papers in my first marriage, and in my most recent divorce, I was also served my divorce papers on December 7th.
Wow,
Yeah. And then a number of years ago, I had a beloved golden retriever. Unfortunately, I had to put him down also on December 7th.
Brad, that's
Yeah. So it's, yeah. So for me to be here today and to feel joy and to be in such a good headspace, to
yeah,
me is monumental because I'll be honest with you, the last few years have been pretty bad. Last year was my divorce was final in January 30th of last year, and for the last 3 years, I'd spent Thanksgiving by myself. This year was different. This year was more of a celebration because I was able to be in a space where I chose solitude. I chose
mm,
in that role to be joyous and to celebrate and be grateful for the things that I had, not for the things that I didn't have. It was transformative in that I was able to see the things that were so amazing to me, that I had a life of gratitude, and for the people that I was able to be connected with, and a heart freed from the disturbances that I had from a number of things in my life that didn't serve well. As I think you probably talked about a little bit about the breath framework, the key elements
mhm,
for me was identifying where I started out at and knowing where I was at and identifying who I was and who I gave away my power to. And really, I gave control over to was people, situations that, that I shouldn't have.
yeah,
And then really identifying, sitting in my space for knowing who I was at my core and identifying who that was. And really the overriding for that for me is presence. That's my overarching. I want to be present with people. And when I am because before I wasn't present with my children as much as I should be. You have regrets, but you move forward. There are
right,
things that you want to repair, and that's what I'm working towards. But at the same time, then you start taking a look at courage. What are the things that I need to be courageous about? Being courageous about um, having those difficult conversations, or telling somebody that you love them, or making a decision
mm,
to step out of your comfort zone and understanding where you're at in life and the experiences that you've had in order to be help somebody along their path and to be
yeah,
able to help them heal. And that's where I'm at today. In January, I'll be launching From My Heart to Yours is compassionate life counseling. And
mm,
for me, it's not about the development of a revenue stream. It's the ability to be able to reach other people's hearts and just to be able to share with both individuals and corporate clients, especially when they're having, people that are struggling. We've seen that within the pandemic. It's such a huge issue of,
yeah,
how do you get to that right heart? How do you get to the balance for people that have grief? How do you move through that, or how do you get to a point of joy and remembrance? It takes time, it takes effort, it takes intention, but it also
mhm,
takes the time to celebrate the time that you had with them. It changes over time from mourning, and you need to do that. You need to. Everybody
yeah,
has a path that's different, but the fact of the matter is, each person, as they go through that, they navigate it so differently. And but also it's the same thing for how that they pass, in what circumstances. We know that, within suicide, there's 130 people that take their lives daily, and out of
mm,
that, 69 over 69% are male.
yeah,
So the challenges for men today are the lack of ability to connect with their emotional component and really become a whole person. I used to say when I started working with Annie that men are waffles and women are are pancakes. It's a more holistic approach when you take a look at they're connected at their very core of who they are. Everything spreads. Men compartmentalize. They compartmentalize their personal, professional, emotional, relationship. They put barriers that
Yeah, yeah. Wait, say that again. Men.
men are waffles, women are pancakes. Now,
Okay.
now that's just my personal opinion. There's other people going out there. The French toast. That's okay. I'm good with that. Uh, I'm an equal opportunity breakfast eater. Uh, but
Okay.
but if you take a look at the analogy, when you
Hmm.
compartmentalize something, it really prevents you from really connecting with your entire self. You don't impress. You don't embrace and all of your imperfections. You keep them all separate. You keep your shame separate. You keep your struggles separate, and you choke it
Hmm.
down every single day. You
Hmm.
go home. You put on your armor. You don't let anybody get close. That was me.
Hmm.
That was a majority of the reason why some of the things ended up happening and causing the divorce in the first place. There was other extenuating circumstances, but essentially,
Hmm.
when you are in that place and you do not allow yourself to put things down and surrender it as you do in the allow component of the breath framework, it doesn't
Hmm.
serve you, because there's components that within your life that you give more strength and power to than you really need to. And if you don't
Yeah.
put that down, I'm currently in the process of writing a book. It's called From My Heart to Yours, I'm Not My Mistakes. And within that, I
Mm.
give a great illustration. If you're the type of person, says the allow and the surrendering, yeah, what's that all about? Well, let's just say that you pick up a stick, and on that stick,
Well, hold on, because you and
sure,
I are familiar with this. For those that are going to be
right,
watching this, we've been talking about the breath framework. So
right,
this is something that Annie Leave and Mike if I can say
Paterano,
it, thank you, Pateramo,
right.
have created. That's part of a coaching framework that
Hmm.
coaches people. So since you are a graduate, why don't you tell the people what does
Oh,
breath
sure,
mean? What does
absolutely.
that stand for?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, be as in your begin. You want to find out exactly who you are at your very beginning stage. It gives you that foundation for growth and understanding for yourself. And that's all
Mhm.
of you, from your emotions, who you are, what are the things that you're struggling with. And
Okay.
that's your place to start. R is for reclaiming your power. It's identifying those things and the controls that you've given over to other people,
Hmm.
situations, and other manifestations within your life that do not allow you to be your very best self. It precludes you
Okay.
from attaining who you are. And
Yes.
E is excavating your core values. You're taking a look at who you are, what you are at your very core. And then A is for allow. It's identifying those things that in those emotions and sitting in them
Mm.
and identifying with them, getting curious about all of the emotions that you have and setting in that place, and then identifying, do they serve you, do they not serve you, and surrendering them or accepting them for who they are and what they are as a part of you and incorporating them within yourself
Yeah.
with it. And then T is through. You're working through. If you look at it from, I've gone through a swamp, I'm walking through, you want to get through the stench, but you're working through each element of yourself to get to healing. And that's an H for healing. And
Hmm.
that is identifying, accepting, embracing, and incorporating all of who you are and taking stock for the joy that you have within you.
You really did pay attention during all
I
your
did.
development.
I did. I did.
I know Eddie and Mike would be so proud of you. Oh, I know they're
Yeah.
probably proud of you
Yeah.
as it is. So, okay. So, with that, so now for those that understand what the breath framework is about and going through that. So, now go ahead.
So as when you take a look at it from where I think we were still talking about pancakes and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
okay, so if you take a look at men, but they end up having those challenges, and by choking that down, you look at the issues that they end up having. So it's no wonder that you have the issues where they end up coming up said big boys don't cry, put your man up, cowboy the f up, or all
Mm-hmm.
those other different type of euphemisms that are utilized within society today. The societal norms are still imposed by men. a lot. There is what they call the toxic masculinity, that you need to hate certain segments of society. You need to not show any type of vulnerability. That's especially true. No one wants to see vulnerability, especially to your partner,
Oh.
because
Mm-hmm.
there is that, the attachment styles that are associated with that. I know for me that was one of the issues that I ended up having, was the attachment style that I had. I didn't trust women. I was not open to it. So it became self-sabotage. It became, let's go ahead and wreck the relationship before they hurt me.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so those are the components that men are dealing with. And there's much more, but just taking a look at the higher portion of it. You take a look at the what I call the 30,000 foot view. That's where that remains. Whereas women, they're holistic about who that they are, what they are. I just take a look at it from a male perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
because they're in touch more with their emotions, and it allows them to recognize things probably much sooner, and to be able to talk things out, and to be able to work with people more openly. I worked with two therapists for nearly 2.5 years, and my last therapist, he was awesome. I belonged to uh, a group of a men's support group
Mm-hmm.
called Uncivilized Nation. It was great, founded by Trevor Boehm.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. What that started me on the path to start getting more enlightened as far as myself on the feminine side. However, when you start hearing the same things over and over again, and I'm not progressing forward, I wasn't getting to that point of revelation. I wasn't
Mm.
crossing the goal line. That's when Annie and Mike, I started talking with them about, hey, I'm going to go ahead and start this coaching business. And they go, hey, we got this little thing called Breath Framework we got coming up. And I was working with them a little bit independently. And then
Mm-hmm.
they said, some of our clients really, work well together with us. So we'd like to start doing that. So we're going to combine your calls. And I said,
Uh-huh.
oh, man, I'll think about this breath framework thing, and maybe I'll find a few points and I'll give them a few pointers. Yeah, little did I know,
Life changing.
it was life changing. So part of the practice that people don't realize that is just so transformational. Say, what was so transformational about it? Writing yourself letters, and writing letters to the people that hurt you and that you hurt. As you're going through that, and it gets to the heart matter of what happened, what
Yeah.
were the occurrences, what were the hurts, and dealing with the traumas. It becomes eye opening, because as you start looking at those types of instances in your life, you really don't realize on how much that they really truly affect you in your adult life,
Mm-hmm.
until
Mm-hmm.
you take the time, you write the letters, and people will think, oh gosh, that's not a big deal. Well, here's the second half. The second half is when you read them to your coaches.
I was going to
Read,
ask you, did you mail those? What did you
nope,
do with them?
no. I read them to them, and there was a couple of people that I did reach out to, and I did, you know, um, some I let go, some I just said, here's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I can no longer be in your life, and here's the reason why.
Mm.
Some I just let go, and I haven't contacted because there's no need.
Yeah. So about how many letters did you have?
Um, 12
Wow, that was
to
a
pe-
lot of
to
clearing.
pe- to people, and then there was probably 6 or 7 to me.
That was my next question. How many letters did you have for
Oh
yourself?
yeah, 6 or 7 to me, and there was some that were where I started out at. There were some that were along the way for forgiveness for me, and then there was the
Mm-hmm.
healing one to the inner child, the inner wounds.
Mm-hmm.
There was a particular instance. My dad was in Korea. He was attached to a Marine Corps unit, and he was in country. There was 109 of them. Out of the 109, only 3 survived, including my dad.
Oh wow.
Laid out in the
Mm.
field for 3 days, came back. He was in pretty bad shape. He went to Treasure Island up in San Francisco in the Naval Hospital. He was there on his back, on his stomach, for many, many months. They said
Mm.
he would never walk again. He did. He had a metal plate in his head and a metal plate in his nose, and he returned to the fleet to complete his duty during Korea. And there was a number of other issues. He had trauma. He was, you know, very poor. He was a sharecropper. His lost his sister and his father in a fire in 1943. Was put in an orphanage. His baby sister was adopted. Never saw her
Mhm.
again. So there,
Mhm.
he had traumas after traumas after traumas. So I was about 5 years old. Dad came in, and Dad was a third-degree black belt, and I thought it would be fun. Dad was coming home from teaching. I hid behind the door. I jumped on his back, and I went fly. And
Ooh,
bad move on my part. I went flying across the room, landed on the sofa. Dad got in my
PTS,
face.
yeah,
Yes. Yep.
trigger.
Yeah.
I can just see that. Yeah.
So I ended up, so that was my first. That was for my first inner wound. And
Mm,
when you're dealing with that, you're looking at yourselves and how that ended up affecting you. I didn't recognize it. It wasn't until probably a year ago that I finally ended up recognizing that very first trauma, what that ended up doing to me as an individual, and coming to grips with that. And my dad was not a bad person. I mean, he was a good man. He'd made mistakes and doing the best he can.
yeah.
I look back on how old he was during that time and the recency for that. You got to remember, Dad returned back to. He was married in 1955. The Korean War ended, obviously a little while before that, so it was very fresh in his mind. So,
Mhm.
so here he has this, this wound, and there was no apology, never discussion after that. So, when I sat with myself, it was all about asking myself forgiveness and also giving comfort and recognizing, the things that I asked. Does Dad still love us? And will he protect us again? Because it became that fear. It was scared. It was just
Yeah.
pure fear after that. It was just, it wasn't loving and honoring from my particular side. It was just, it was disciplinarian. And unfortunately that was my MO with my children, and it wasn't the right one. It's something that I've learned, and that's one of the things that I want to be able to work alongside men to help them understand before they get to where I'm at right now on the things that they can do.
Mhm. Mhm. So let me ask you this,
Sure.
because you have lots of experiences and traumas like that you have clearly have done your work to
Mm-hmm.
progress to that. So today, especially with you saying that you're wanting to go into this coaching realm,
Mm-hmm.
and what you started with is kind of like I had this conversation with my employer in HR, which kind of set
Mm-hmm.
me on this
Yeah.
path, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So what could you say out there to the person that's watching this, and let's just say they're prototype,
Mm-hmm.
for them to reach out to you for the coaching before maybe they even have that HR intervention kind of
Oh,
thing?
that's a really good question. Be open. Recognize that people are saying something to you already or have talked to you about this already. It's not going to be something that's going to end up coming to you. It's not going to be a totally surprise. So before you
Mhm.
get to that point, just reach out and just say, I'm struggling. I need help. Reach out to somebody that you feel a safe space with. And when I talk, people hear, oh, the safe space, it really
Mhm.
is that someone's not going to judge you. You could be totally 100% vulnerable. Um, it can be really scary, but
Yeah.
it's the right thing that you can do because that is your first step towards wholeness, peace, and calm. That's where I'm at today. I'm at peace and calm. It's a very unusual place that I have never achieved before in my life up until this year. And
Mhm.
uh, if my children could see where I'm at today, they would absolutely tell you I was the type of person I would get angry. I would fly off the handle very easily. I would get upset. Today, I just don't get mad. I don't get upset. I don't have no anger towards anybody. I genuinely love people. Uh, I'm still struggling on the driving part, but now it's not.
What
Now
do you
it's
mean
like,
driving? You're in a car.
I know, yeah, but I'm just saying, if I'm on the road, I'm just like going, it's I don't road rage. I look at these things and I catch my, I actually have something that Annie taught me when I need to pull myself back. And it's
Uh-huh.
actually a physical manifestation that I actually physically reach out. with my fingers, and I do this. I said, Brad, you need to pull yourself back.
Yes.
Be able to
Uh-huh.
provide them grace. They are, they're in a place that you don't know what's going on with them, but it's
Yes.
also providing yourself grace and understanding in your self compassion and self worth. It's understanding all of that. And one of my friends, Mariah Eddington, she is fabulous. She absolutely
Mhm.
is. I just love her to death. And her husband Byron, they are just two of my favorite people. One of the things that Mariah ended up sharing with me that I incorporate every single day is mirror work.
Yes.
Is looking in the mirror the very first
Mirror.
thing every morning. The very first time she talked to me about this, I was in a better space,
Mhm.
but not the space I'm in today, which is fabulous. And she goes, Brad, you need to tell yourself you love you every morning. So when I get up every morning, the very first thing I do is say, good morning, Brad. I love you. You're amazing. You're gonna have a fabulous day today. You're gonna touch people's lives, touch people's hearts, because it's not because anybody says it's so. It's because it's so. Your worth
It
is
is.
not dependent upon anybody else outside of you. You compare yourself to no one else but who you were yesterday. Become your very best self today. Love everybody that you come in contact with, and provide
Mm.
yourself the loving compassion that you richly deserve.
Brad, what I'm really loving is that these lessons that you have learned in your life, like they are sounding like they have really resonated with you, like they have touched you because like you're repeating it back
Mm-hmm.
where you came from and where you learned them. Very familiar as well with the mirror work. And here's what I'm also going to say, adding to that for those of you when we talk about mirror work, if it
Mm-hmm.
resonates with you, this thing that most of us are always carrying around somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
it usually has a camera. Flip the camera around because that way you still see yourself. So you don't have to just be at home. But if you're having a moment somewhere, pull out your cell phone
Absolutely.
and look at yourself. And heck, the beauty of that is you can even record that. You could
Absolutely.
record those
Yeah.
messages and save them, and let's see like where your process progress is from what it was like maybe today if you did
Mm-hmm.
that recording that video to yourself to, as you say, a week later, 6 months later, how it is that you can be able to love yourself with
Right.
that. So mirror is where it started from, but I'm here to tell you
Right.
you can advance with the technology and have that as
Absolutely.
well,
Mm-hmm.
with your phone. So
I absolutely agree.
when you were sharing, I wanted to share with you. I was using your voice and your vibration, and I was shuffling
Mm-hmm.
some cards about some messages. And when we were talking about how you would reach that gentleman out there, that how can I get that help that I'm looking for before I have to have someone sit down and talk to me for that HR meeting?
Right.
And the card they came up with the theme was about connection,
Yes.
and that it's the trigger is like it's too much. Like you're just feeling
Mm-hmm.
just overwhelmed. But then the true statement was talking about I'm grounded, in my body. But then you had like three. So the next one that had came up was the theme about cleansing, which is a
Yes.
lot of what you talked about. Like you clean some stuff up out of your
Yes.
life. The trigger may be that holding somebody back from that would be, I will never change. This is how I'm always going to be. And Brad is here to show you, as you shared in the beginning, talking about I'm not young or I'm older, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
People may say that you're not able to change, but you have been a testimony today that you absolutely, you know, can change. And that's why the true statement is in each moment, I'm a new me. You
Mm-hmm.
are.
Yes.
Neither one, we're not the same as we were when we started this
No.
conversation like
No.
29 minutes ago. So we're, different people. So you absolutely can be a different person if you're
Yes.
experiencing struggle, which ultimately love what I love right after that was the last one was the freedom and being inspired
Mm-hmm.
and having a choice in that the true statement talks about how I create my life. And
Yes.
so from those things talking about is too much connection to detoxification, cleaning those things out to becoming inspiring, and what you're going to be doing now with your coaching. I'm absolutely, sending the aloha spirit to you that,
Thank
those
you.
people that can benefit from your coaching and your business that you're going to have aspiring to will be amazing. Thank you for a lot of times when we do our coaching is usually out of the work and of our experiences. But
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to make you a great coach
I appreciate
because
that.
you've been there. You've had
Yeah.
that experience. And
Mhm.
I'm definitely here to tell you, anybody, if you're looking for a coach, here's what I say. Coaches have coaches.
Yep. I do.
So if you if your coach has never had a coach, I just, tell you to pause and pump the brakes on that. If
Yep.
you've never
I
had a
agree.
coach, that
Get it. I tell you something. One of the things that I love, Brene Brown has an awful lot of great uh, statements in her works. If you're going to
mhm.
do this work, you've got to do the work.
Yes,
Find
you
a
got
find a few good marble jar friends. I have some. Be
my first
be
friends. Yeah,
and don't forget you are worthy of connection, love, and belonging.
indeed, indeed. Well, Brad, I so enjoyed our conversation today. Like
I
you
did
said,
as
ending
well.
with you are inspiring. I know we will have further conversations for sure. Thank you for
Absolutely.
those that have watched, as I know there are times where people silently watch, and I also know that there's times where people will watch on the replay. So thank you for doing that, and until we meet again next week, thanks for watching.
Aloha.
Aloha.